Ladies
大
and
家
gentlemen,
好，很
good
高兴
morning.
参加今天的会议，
I'm very
与
glad to
来自
attend this online seminar, which allows me to discuss the research and practices on marine and spatial planning with experts and researchers from all over the world, and to share China's experience on this topic. First of all, on behalf of the Ministry of Natural Resources of China, I would like to thank the IOC for organizing this seminar, and I would like to extend my warmest regards to all the guests. MSP is an efficient tool to resolve the tensions between different human activities and also between human activities and the preservation of marine ecosystems. It's not only an important ocean governance method based on ecosystems, but also one of the most relevant areas for international cooperation and exchange on marine and coastal governance. The Chinese government values MSP highly and is one of the countries who pioneered MSP. The marine functional zoning system is the foundation, and the main part of MSP contributes actively to ocean governance, to the preservation of marine ecosystems, and to marine economic development. China has already written and implemented 3 rounds of marine functional zoning. There's a spatial planning system of marine functioning zoning on national, provincial, and municipal levels. What's more, the Chinese government considers the marine functional zoning as the basic mechanism in ocean governance and incorporates it in the law of the People's Republic of China on the administration of the use of sea areas. This law stipulates that all marine activities must respect every demand defined in marine functional zoning concerning ocean exploration, the use of sea areas, etc. The implementation of this law defines scientifically marine space for production, livelihood, and ecosystems, and resolves efficiently the conflicts on the use of sea areas between different sectors. In recent years, the Chinese government has been stepping up the development of an ecological civilization and building a beautiful China. In 2019, it reformed the national spatial planning system by combining different regulations and applying an integrated system on land and ocean. China is also compiling national land planning and planning for coastal protection and utilization. In the meantime, the Chinese government practices the concept of a community with the shared future in promoting exchanges and cooperation with other maritime countries. China has already achieved remarkable results with many countries, for example, Thailand, South Korea, etc., which enables a new pattern for international cooperation on marine and spatial planning. In the future, we'll work together with every country and all international organizations, for example, the Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission of UNESCO, in order to establish and complete a methodology system for marine spatial planning and promote an international guide for MSP. At the same time, on the occasion of a decade of ocean science for sustainable development proclaimed by the UN, and we want to contribute to the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals, I wish all the success to the seminar, and I would like to work with all of you in terms of marine and spatial planning. Thank you very much. Dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I used to participate in the drafting of the law of China on administration of use of sea areas. I'm very honored and to be here to present to you the marine governance of China. There are 3 parts of my presentation. I have to talk about the ocean governance in China. I would like to talk about the China's sea areas management systems and China's ocean governance experience. Next slide, please. And next slide, please. And China is a large maritime country. And China has a lot of experience in marine in spatial planning, and this is really beneficial to the development of China. And Chinese government attacked a lot of importance to marine and spatial planning, and Chinese government considers marine spatial planning as an important part in economic development. And Chinese marine governance is since ancient times. Next slide. And since the ocean provided mankind with benefit of fish and salt and convenience in boating, there has been trace of China's ocean governance. And after the founding of PRC, and a relatively complete ocean governance system in China was gradually established. China adheres, put in place many laws and regulations in this area. For example, China follows the principle of protection first nowadays, and the foreign system is really complete. Next slide, please. Nowadays, and China has already entered the area of a marine civilization. And China adhere to the concept of community with the shared future for mankind, future openness and inclusiveness, as well as mutual benefit and win-win, so as to build a blue partnership. And China follows also the principles of protection first, economical utilization, sustainable development, and harmonious coexistence between human beings and the ocean, and promote community and optimization of economic, social, and economic benefits. Last slide. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. And next slide, please. China has established the ocean governance system with sea-related laws and regulations as the core. Next slide. On September the 4th, 1958, the Chinese government promulgated the Statement of Government of the People's Republic of China on the territorial sea. Next slide. China has put in place national laws and regulations, provincial and municipal laws and regulations. And there's marine cables, etc. There are 26 provincial and municipal laws and regulations. There are 150 ocean-related policy documents and 70 ocean-related laws, and over 400 ocean-related technical standards and specifications. Next slide. Many of the ocean governance systems are original and innovative. For example, the Marine Functional Zoning System, the pay system of a sea area use, provisions on administration of the right to use sea areas, marine ecological red lines, and the marine summer fishing moratorium. All these are advanced in the national stage. Next slide. At the same time, the Chinese government has put in place many measures, for example, measures for the management of coastline protection and utilizations, the Notice of State Council on strengthening the protection of coastal wastelands and strictly controlling the reclamation. There are also the measures for the control of the reclamation. So China has enforced the protection of coastal waterlands. And China has resolved the problems of reclamation. Next slide. So China has realized many progress on this subject. And China has enforced the marine governance at the same time the law enforcement. Next slide. And China has put in place many administrations on local and national level for marine governance. For example, every level is equipped with China Coast Guard and law enforcement team. China has also established a lot of marine scientific research institutions and marine colleges. Next slide. China has established a marine three-dimensional surveillance and monitoring network system. For example, unmanned area vehicle, oceanographic buoy. There's also established a technical support system, for example, marine observation, sea area dynamic supervision, etc. Right now, the marine ecosystem systems monitoring network system covers almost all water bodies. And we can monitor with success the situation of ecosystems, so we can solve the problem of control the reclamation, etc. Next slide. Significant achievements have been made in sea area management, ecological protection, and economic development. From 2010 to 2020, the national functional zoning and the 11 provincial MSPs has divided China's sea area into 1,931 functional zones and 40,000 subzones. There are 258 agricultural and marine zones. There are 340 areas dedicated to livelihood. There are also 287 areas for tourism. There's also 220 marine protected areas and more than 200 areas for other uses. Next slide. Since
And also there has been a establishment of ecological protection area. Nearly 37% of mainland coastlines and 30% of offshore sea areas have been defined as marine ecological protected areas. And there have been over 300 rehabilitation projects and over 6,500 hectares of area have been rehabilitated over the last few years. And mangroves have also been rehabilitated. And landscape along the coastline have also been restored. Therefore, we have established 12 main industries related with the marine economies. Next slide. And a huge production capacity has been built up, and in 2019, the gross ocean production value was over almost 9,000 billion yuan, and which was an increase of 6.2% over 2018, and it took up 9% of the total GDP of the country. And if we divide this into three industries, first, second, and third industry, we can see that the first industry takes up 4%, second industry takes up 35%, and the tertiary industry takes up 60% of over the total production. And also, this creates a lot of employment opportunities. And in 2019, 37 million ocean-related employment were created. And so we can see that ocean industry or ocean economy has become an important part of the Chinese economy. Next slide, please. And the Chinese government has not only concentrated on the economic development of the marine industry, but has also worked very hard to protect the ecology or the ecosystem of the marine. We have applied many different systems to protect the coastal areas. Next slide, please. And in 2002, the PRC adopted the law on the administration of the use of sea areas. So the marine functional zoning system was adopted, and the provisions on the administration of the right to use sea areas were also applied, and also the paid system of sea area were used. And when we applied this MFZ, it means we divide the sea area into different types of functional zones, and this is based on the location, conditions, the natural environment, natural resources development, and conservation status of the sea area, and the demand of economic and social development. Next slide, please. And China is among the earliest countries that proposed the concept of MFZ. Actually, it started in the 70s, in the last century. The exploration on this MFZ started early on, and we have already had third rounds of MFZ application. The first round was between 1996 and 2000. And we had carried out research, and this resulted in laws and regulations. And the second round took place between 2001 and 2010. The third round took place between 2011 and 2020. And during this period of time, national functional zoning system was established, and it has become a legal system. This has been incorporated in our laws and regulations. And this, please turn to the page 29, page 29. And the scope of China's MFZ includes the inland waters, territorial seas, contiguous zone, exclusive economic zone, and the continental shelf of China. And China's MFZ is classified into 3 levels, which are at the national level, provincial level, and the country level. At the national level, we focus on the formulation of overall objectives and policies and measures. At the provincial level, we focus on the formulation of industry layout and controlling objectives and defining first-class functional zones. And at the municipal level, it concentrates on the implementation of the objectives by the national and the provincial authorities. And this MFZ is revised every 10 years. And now the functional zones are divided into 8 zones and 22 sub-zones. And it has covered 5% of China's sea area, and the ratio of protected areas in offshore sea areas has accounted for more than 11% by now. And the ratio of reserve area in offshore sea areas is now over 10%, and the ratio of mainland natural coastlines in all coastlines is now higher than 35%. And the length of the restored coastlines is now over 2,000 kilometers. And these sea areas are owned by the state. This is the provisions on the administration of the rights to use sea areas. And the State Council exercises ownership on behalf of the state. And the right to use sea areas belongs to usufructuary rights and can be obtained through different methods: application for approval, bidding, and auction. And the sea area are divided into different types of sea use, and we have 9 types of sea uses, including aquaculture, industry, transportation, tourism, entertainment, subsea engineering, reclamation engineering, pollution discharge, special use, and other use, as well as 30 subtypes of sea use. And we also according to the methods of sea use, we also put them in different classes. There are 5 first class, including land reclamation, structures, sea closure, opening, and also 20 subclass sea areas. And as I have already mentioned, this is a paid system of sea area use. Individuals or other entities shall pay sea use when they use sea areas, and these fees are in line with the relevant regulations. And the sea use fee is the income that the state can obtain from the transfer of sea area use rights, because the state is the owner of natural resources. Next page. Now, I would like to tell you how we share China's ocean governance experience. Actually, the governance capacity and the achievement achieved by China has been recognized by the international community and other countries, especially countries from maritime Silk Road and island countries. And many representatives from these countries have visited our foundation for support. And we have assisted these, especially small island countries, so as to help them meet the demands for a marine economic development. And we have also helped these countries to implement ocean governance to advance the construction of Belt and Road Initiative and the Blue Partnership. And we have already signed agreements or MOUs with the following countries, including Morocco, Mozambique, Mauritius, Madagascar, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Thailand, Cambodia, Malaysia, Timor-Leste, Papua New Guinea, Fiji, Antigua and Barbuda, Guyana, Suriname, and Panama. And we have also worked with an NGO, Pacific Islands Development Forum. And we are applying projects and programs under these agreements. And we will sponsor the MSP compilation for countries in need so as to set a foundation for their economic development. And many of small island countries are developing countries, so they can really benefit from China's experience and information that we can provide. So we have sponsored the MSP compilation for these countries. When we compile MSP, we take into consideration the natural elements, social elements, and comparative advantage of these countries, as well as key industry projects and development path of these countries. We take all these factors into consideration while compiling MSP so as to help them achieve their development objectives. And we have also helped the companies at home or abroad to invest in this recipient country. And we have also provided training for marine experts or marine personnel. Many companies have participated in these programs so as they can be familiar with the situation on ground and decide their investment plans, and so that these companies' investments can bring benefits to local economy and the livelihood of local people. And in regards the training, we have mobilized various resources to train marine personnel and talents. And these efforts will be ongoing. We will continue providing training for marine personnel. Next page, please. Well, China has entered a new era of ecological civilization. Therefore, in future, we will advance the blue economy through MSP. And our plan will be based on Xi Jinping's thoughts on socialism with Chinese characters and ecological civilization. We will adhere to the new development concepts of innovation, coordination, green, openness, and sharing, and take into full consideration all land and sea space, all natural and human factors, as well as the development order, so as to have better land and marine space planning. We will use modern scientific ways to accurately draw a blueprint for development. We will use big data, cloud computing, AI, and high technology to drive development. We will promote sustainable economic and social development based on the ecological protection and resource conservation and green development. And we will put people in the center. Next page. China is one of the first countries in the world to implement MSP, and China is ready to share its experience with other countries along the Maritime Silk Road and island countries. And the China Oceanic Development Foundation will continue its cooperation with different countries, organizations, including IOC, to have win-win cooperation, set up partnership so as to address major challenges we face, safeguard maritime security, advance blue economy, protect maritime environment, and build a blue partnership and a community of marine destiny. And we are ready to become your partner and your friend. Thank you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Zhang Ziwei from the First Institute of Oceanography, Ministry of Natural Resources, China. And we're happy and a great honor to be here to share some work we did in Marine Spatial Planning. Now, in the last presentation, Dr. Pan gave us an introduction of what we have done in marine governance. It refers to laws, regulations, tools, and some other international cooperation work. Of course, MSP is one of the most important tools for ocean governance. So in our presentation, I will introduce what we have done in Marine Spatial Planning and some work we are doing in this field. Next slide. The time limit, my presentation just have 4 parts. Next one. Next. Next. The first is some background of this work. Now, in fact, this part is very similar with Dr. Pan's presentation. Now, China has very large marine area. The marine resources are also abundant, which have made a great contribution to the development of the country's economy. However, due to the rapid development of marine economy, the China Sea once faced the problem of disorderly, extensive, and free sea use. After releasing these issues, China began to attach greater importance to marine protection and thus become one of the first countries in the world to implement marine spatial planning. It starts from the maybe from 1978. Okay, next one. Now, recently I have joined a work organized by COVASI UNEP to assist the marine policy refers to marine spatial planning in Southeast Asian countries. The results show that the laws and regulations are the basis for marine spatial planning in our country. In China, marine spatial planning mainly referred to marine functional zoning, except that we also have island protection planning, coastal planning, but we think marine functional zoning is the main work in marine spatial planning. So there are 6 marine laws and more than 13 laws are in the regulations which form the legal basis of marine functional zoning. For example, the Marine Environment Protection Law of People's Republic of China was first passed in 1982, proposed to establish marine functional zoning in China. And the Law of People's Republic of China on the Administration of Sea Areas enforced in 2002 identified marine functional zoning as one of the 3 basic systems for the management sea areas use. These 3 basic systems is marine functional zoning, sea use right management system, and the paid use management system. So with the support of this legal system, we can take marine functional zoning as a tool for coastal management. Next. Next. The research of marine functional zoning was started in 1978, and after decades of research, we defined the marine functional zoning refers to the division of sea area into different types of functional zones based on the location, the conditions, natural environment, natural resources, development and conservation status of sea area, and the demand of economic and social development. It is used to control the use of sea area, protect the marine economic environment, and promote the regional development of the sea area and the sustainable development of marine economy. So I think this is similar in most of the countries of marine spatial planning. So next, how about the history of marine functional zoning? In fact, in Dr. Pan's presentation, he have given us a very briefly introduction of this. To now, 3 generations of marine functional zoning have been completed and implemented. The first generation of marine functional zoning was completed from 1989 to 1993 and implemented to 1998. It was also called small-scale marine functional zoning because its mapping scale was small. As an experiment, it laid the foundation of the next round of marine functional zoning. Now, the photo in the right is a cover page of marine functional zoning report referred to Bohai Sea in China, and it published in 1989. Next. The second generation of marine functional zoning was completed from 1999 to 2004 and implemented to 2010. And the mapping scale became bigger, and the state council approved the national marine functional zoning in 2002 and successfully approved the marine functional zoning for the coastal province in 2004. The implementation period for them can be lasted to 2010. This generation of marine functional zoning built a new marine development framework and achieved regional development and sustainable use of sea areas to some extent. So next. The third generation of marine functional zoning was completed from 2009 to 2012 and implemented to 2020. And this is also the last year. In 2012, the state council approved the national marine functional zoning and 11 provincial marine functional zoning. Most municipal marine functional ruins have been completed. Now, so far, marine functional ruining has become an important way to protect, recover, and reserve marine resources and approve project level CEOs and coordinate sectoral CEO activities and to move forward sustainable development. Also, in this period, MSP developed fast around the world. So this is a history of the marine functional ruining in China. How about the technical system? So next. The first is the form of marine functional ruining. Marine functional ruining are divided into 3 levels. For the national level, the main tasks are to specify ruining objectives, identify basic functional of rules, define development and protection priorities and management requirements for marine functional rules, and determine key sea areas and the main functions, as well as introduce measures for the implementation of marine functional ruling. Now, for the provincial level, the main tasks are based on the requirements of national marine functional ruling and the local character, confirm provincial marine development objectives, specific space allocations, and ruling targets. After the specification of location and the development focus, provincial identify the main functional rules and sub-rules. The main functional rules takes at the city level to implement the refined provincial ruling targets, identify the marine functional sub-rules with specific requirements for sea use and environmental protection, as well as propose suggestions for granting the implementation of marine functional ruling. So that's in the Atlantic. How about in the Lantana? Next. That's the classification system. After 3 decades development, the classification system has been further reserved and improved. The classification system of the 3rd generation of marine functional ruling is based on major marine industries and sea use with the technical assessment of quality of waters and the character status of marine development, and consideration of utilization and environmental protection. Given the principal purpose for offshore development, the sea was divided into 8 rules at the first level and 22 sub-rules, among which particularly the reservation rule was established to return the original feature of the ocean to achieve sustainable development. So next. It takes several steps to complete the marine functional ruling process, from establishing working group to plan revision. Just like the UNESCO step-by-step guideline for MSP, marine functional ruling is also established on the basis of scientific knowledge and data, social and economic status, and long-term development and protection need. Above all, to release adaptive management, monitoring, and evaluation is conducted during the implementation of marine functional ruling to consider the change of marine environment, ecosystem, and human activities. Now, as we know, now MSPglobal 2030 project is developing an international guideline for MSP, and the planning process for marine functional ruling also under reviewing. Based on this technical system, 3-level marine functional ruling have been developed in the last 10 years. So next. The first is national level. The national marine functional ruling identifies the overall positioning, development, and protection direction, and management and control measures for the Bohai Sea, Yellow Sea, East China Sea, and South China Sea. Combined with social factors such as natural attributions, administrative district, and development and utilization skills, 29 key sea areas have been divided to determine the scope and the main functions of each key sea area. Next. The national marine functional ruling identifies 6 ruling objectives, each with quantitative indicator. The national goals are further decomposed as the provisional level, and the provisional ruling objectives are decomposed at the municipal level according to their protection and development goals, and to ensure the consistentness. Maybe this is one of the most important difference with some other countries. That means the planning system is up to down in China. That the low level multifunction ruling is forward under the upper indicator. By 2020, the quantitative goals have been achieved, which means that that human activities have been effectively controlled. At the same time, conflicts between use and use environment has also been effectively managed. Therefore, multifunction ruling has granted the sea use demand, boosted marine economy, and improved the quality of marine environment and ecosystem. Next. The provisional multifunction ruling divides China's sea area into a total of 1931 functional rules, including agriculture and fishery rules, port and navigation rules, industrial and urban use rules, and actual. Next one. The municipal multifunction ruling focuses on implementing national and provincial ruling objectives, such as the length objective of the indicator and the result coastline, and the sub-rules are deleted at this level. Okay, next one. Next. As I mentioned, the third generation multifunction ruling has completed implementation in last year, 2020. And we assess the program of this round of multifunction ruling. The main program may be followed. The first is ambiguous relationship between different plans. Now we have different management system before 2018. So we have land planning, we have ocean planning, and the different plans have different legislation and policy basis and technical standards. But some land plans overlap with ocean plans. The same is true of ocean plans. There are even conflicts. As a result, the boundaries between plans are unclear, and the overlapping areas become somewhere the gaps between the management loophole. Besides, the ambiguous relationship between different levels of plan cause the incoherence. Next. On the other hand, although the state oceanic administration took major responsibility for marine affairs, I mean this is before 1918, but different departments were also involved in marine management. For example, the Ministry of Agriculture was in charge of management of marine fishery resources. Thus, duplication of functions and inefficiency had directly to the overhaul of ministries in March 2018. And next. And the next program we think is separated land and sea system. Moreover, the land and sea were separated during the long period of development, which caused the uncoordinated land and sea system and the program like disordered coastal development and several land based pollution. Next. Next is in order to face this problem, we made a reform of national planning system. The China government reformed the management institution. In March 2018, the Ministry of Natural Resources was established to realize the integrated management of natural resources in China and sectoral coordination. And the duty of MNR can be summarized as two unification. The first is unified exercise of the ownership of natural resources is owned by the whole people, and unified exercise of the ownership of natural resources is owned by the whole people. To achieve these two goals, the reform of national planning was conducted. Next. Basically, the national spatial planning means to plan on one map. That is to see land and the ocean as a whole. On this framework, the whole land is supposed to divide it into living, production, and ecological rule. Specifically, the marine space is divided into marine development and utilization rule, marine ecological rule. Now, in the ecological rule, the line is determined, within which human activities are strictly prohibited. Now, in this process, we also aim to realize multi-plan integration. So in marine realm, there will be only 2 plans left: marine spatial planning and coastal rule planning. That's the new planning system in China. Now here I take last one. Now here I take Guangxi province as a case to introduce marine spatial planning. It's part of Guangxi spatial planning. And the next presentation, as Dr. Yang will introduce coastal planning in his presentation. Next. This is a practice what we are doing in the marine spatial planning in China now. Here I take Guangxi as an example to explain what we are doing. Now, Guangxi province, located in the southwest of China, close to Vietnam. As the last generation of marine functional ruling is complete, we are developing a new round spatial planning for Guangxi province. Of course, marine spatial planning is part of this work. In order to finish this work, we analyzed the existing conditions of Guangxi province. We found that marine fishery is a dominant industry and human activities are mainly in coastal area. At the same time, the combination in history has caused the waste of marine resources. Most coastal lines have been changed into artificial ones. Besides, the ocean also faces challenges of land-based pollution, overfishing, urban and economic development. Like any other place in China, the planning system was quite complicated, which caused many governance programs. Next. After the partition stage, we conducted the performance assessment of marine functional ruling of Guangxi province. And the results were used to provide reference to automatism and adjust the marine functional rules in the later stage. The whole process was completed by establishing an editor system through which we assessed the performance of marine functional ruling in Guangxi in the last 10 years. Next. When we finished that work, we conducted the evaluation of marine resources and environmental carrying capacity and the national spatial development suitability to determine the layout of different CEU's demands. Within the new framework, these two evaluations will function as a technical basis for national spatial planning system. The evaluation of resource and environment carrying capacity is a comprehensive evaluation of natural resources, endowment, and ecological environmental background of conditions, which determines the carrying capacity of labor of national space under the direction of ecological protection, agricultural production, urban construction, and other functions. The evolution of natural spatial development suitability is to evaluate the suitability of land for agricultural production, of urban construction on the basis of resource and the environment carrying capacity evolution. The final ruling place can be seen at the right side. The ecological rule was divided into marine ecological red line and ecological control rule. In the new plan, the marine ecological red line area covers about 4,000 square kilometer, increased from 25% to 31%. The development and the utilization rule were further divided into 6 categories, 6 different rules. It's also different with the last marine function ruling. Now we call it fishery transportation rule, mining and carbon rule, tourism and intermittent rule, special use rule, and reserve rule. Next. Finally, we also in order to keep the land sea condition, we also proposed some measures to implement this planning. First is regional allocation of marine space resources should be released. For example, as an important result, the detroit of coastline should be stopped. This includes objectives ranging from the length of natural coastline is no less than 35%, paid use of coastline to coastline classification, control, and action. And the second is to establish and comprehensive management and control system that priority ecological protection. The marine industry development should see the ecological line as the bottom line to protect the marine ecosystem. And the land-based pollution and marine pollution should be treated as a whole to control. And finally, the government should explore to establish a modern marine industry system, for example, to achieve integrated land and sea development and develop marine irrigation industry and agriculture. Now, from this work, we can say the new generation of MSP in China, also including ruling and regulations. This is what we are doing now. Okay, next. Okay, time limit. Stop here. Thanks for your attention.
Hello, everyone. I am Yang Xiao from National Marine Data and Information Service, Ministry of Natural Resources of People's Republic of China. It's a great honor to participate in this national presentation. Our team is researching on China's coastal zone planning, which is expected to be approved and implemented soon. Next, please. I will spend about 10 minutes to introduce our ideas and methods in coastal zone planning, especially how to utilize the ecosystem-based management approach in this planning. First, background. Next, please. More than 100 countries have coastline in the world. China has more than 18,000 kilometers of mainland coastline, more than 10,000 islands. The coastal zone is the most dynamic space for economic gathering and urbanization in China. The coastal zone carries more than 10% of the country's population and creates nearly 20% of GDP, with only 3% of land territory. According to the 14th five-year plan just announced, 5 national development strategies are all related to the coastal zone. So the coastal zone is very important to China, not only now, but also in the future. However, long-time high-intensity development has brought tremendous pressure on the resources, ecology, and the environment of coastal areas in China. For example, according to the Marine Ecological and Environmental Status Bulletin of 2019, about 80% of marine ecosystems monitored are in subhealthy or unhealthy conditions. These impacts are caused by the combined effects of land source activities and maritime activities in the coastal zone, and the relevant spatial planning of the coastal zone needs to be formulated. In the past 20 years, China's marine spatial planning is mainly presented in the form of marine functional zoning. In 2018, government carried out a systematic reform of all spatial planning, including land and sea. In the new spatial planning framework, the zoning of land and ocean will be unified, instead of zoning separately like before, and in order to enhance the land-sea coordination of spatial planning and management, a coastal zone planning has been set up as a category of spatial planning. Now, over the last 30 years, a number of integrated planning frameworks and spatial management tools and processes have been developed to protect coastal ecosystem. Best known is ecosystem-based management, EBM for short. Today, EBM supported by Marine Spatial Planning is recognized as best practice. In our opinion, the ecosystem is at the core of coastal zone management, so we take ecosystem-based management as the core idea of coastal zone planning. Next, please. The point is how to gradually practice the concept of EBM on coastal zone planning. Usually, ecosystem-based approaches focus on levels of biological organization, which encompass the essential structure, processes, functions, and interactions among organisms and their environment. We extend the connotation of EBM, which not only include natural ecosystem, but also human beings. The goal of EBM is to maintain the health, productivity, and resilience of the ecosystem, and to ensure that the ecosystem provides sustainable products and services for development needs. So, EBM tools in coastal zone planning process have been implemented to protect the coastal ecosystem and balance the complexity and potential conflicts of growing uses of the coastal zone. In our planning, EBM approach for coastal zone can be summarized in 3 aspects. Next, please. The first point is coastal regionalization, which is based on the boundary of ecosystem. It should be emphasized that the regionalization here is not zoning. Next, please. The purpose of China's coastal regionalization is to break administrative management boundaries and strengthen the management guidelines based on characteristics of different ecosystems. We can clarify protection priorities, development direction, and control requirements for each subregion. In our planning, China's coastal zone is divided into 18 ecological regions, as the picture shows. The regionalization factors mainly include habitat of species, coastal topography, features of physical environment, such as oceanography and ocean current. Next, please. The second point is the policy. Policy is the main embodiment of the EBM method in this planning. We put forward innovation, coastal policy of coastline management, island protection, ecological zoning, and industrial distribution. It must be recognized that it is very important to implement policies into specific coastal spaces for enhancing planning operability. Next, please. 4 types of policies have been proposed. For resource utilization constraint management, the policies include the protection of shoreline resources, the protection of intertidal zone, strictly control of new reclamation. Next, please. For ecological protection, the policies include seasonal conservation of important species, long-term supervision mechanism of land source pollution, the ecological red line, The ecological red line is a typical policy that reflects China's management practice. Next, please. For industrial distribution optimization, the policy includes new spatial layout requirement for offshore wind power, fishery, transportation, and so on. Next, please. We are very concerned about the public's right to access and enjoy the coast. One of the most important policies is the coastal building retreat. Taking into account the needs of disaster prevention, ecological protection, and accessibility to coast, we will draw a retreat line on certain coasts. This work has already been initiated in Hainan province and some cities. Next, please. The third point is space use rules based on land and sea coordination. Next, please. The emphasis is to carry out the evaluation of spatial bases. In the evaluation process, we take ecosystem as the background and take into account the carrying capacity of resources and environment, as well as suitability of land utilization. The evaluation result is premise and basis for spatial zoning. Next, please. The integrated zoning or control of the land and ocean space around the coastline is an important innovation. The land and marine police, which share important ecological functions, are integrated into the ecological red line and ecological space as a whole. The utilization marine space and the closely related sporting land space will be controlled jointly. Next, please. Now the last part. Next, please. At present, China's coastal zone planning is still in the preparation stage. In the process of planning, research, and implementation, we will also focus on the following aspects. First, local practice. We will release relevant documents to guide coastal areas to carry out research and the preparation of coast zones planning in province level. In about 2 or 3 years, we will strive to achieve full coverage of coastal zone planning in all 11 coastal provinces. Second, valuing and accounting. Coasts and coastal natural infrastructure are essential to the economy of country and the livelihood of inhabitants. Impairment of coastal ecosystem that leads to a reduction in resilience or productivity can be a significant cost to the economy. Many ecosystem assets and services in China's coastal zone remain unquantified. Better methods for valuing non-market assets and services will better inform choices relating to what areas or assets can be developed and what needs to be protected. Third, monitoring and evaluation. New solutions and indicators are required to assess changes in the coastal ecosystem and the surveillance of activity that are occurring within and adjacent to coastal zones. Last but not least, the science, technology, and innovation. Integrated management must be underpinned by a deeper understanding of how biophysical and human systems are coupled and its cumulative impacts. We will take as many measures as possible to promote the development and application of coastal zone science. Next, please. All I proposed here is intermediate version. Maybe some policies will be revised in following step. If you have WeChat app, you can scan this QR code in the screen. That's me. Thank you for listening.